Hey everyone, so today I wanted to go over 3 things that could be keeping you from landing fish and might be the reason you're breaking off or you get a fish on the line and you seem to be losing it, and it has to do with your gear, so we're going to get right into it. The first thing is your line, and just like before you go out on the river, there's things you want to be checking, just like you don't take off in a plane without the pilot and the crew doing a full checklist. Same thing with your gear. So one of the things you want to do before you go out on the river, especially if your gear's been sitting for a year, is get fresh line on your reel. You never know, if it's been sitting, what's gotten into it. There could be nicks, frays in it. You could have knots in your line from the previous year or the last time you used it, and just any sort of defects or weaknesses in your line that when you get a fish on, it could be breaking. So anytime you're stringing up fresh for the year and about to go out, always get fresh line on your reel before you start. And then as you're fishing throughout the season, even if you still have a good amount of line on there, if a fish takes you for a ride down the river, it's pulling that line over so many rocks and other things and could be fraying it. So just keep that in mind when you're fishing, to always be running your fingers down your line, checking to see if it's frayed and making sure that the integrity of the line is still intact. So then the next thing, this is also something you should check before you go fishing, that you might actually think the problem is with your line, but it could actually be the eyes on your rod. So what I mean by that is, you see the eyes on your rod, most spinning rods especially have eyes like this where there's ceramic inserts on the inside, or some of them are metal, and that's good, it helps the line pass through easily. But what can happen if it's been stepped on, or sometimes, when you're fishing, this is something to pay attention to too. If you're in a snag or you have a fish and your split shot comes back and ends up hitting your rod, you need to double check and be checking all the time. You see how there, part of the ceramic is popped out of this, or sometimes it will be completely out. And if you don't notice that, it basically turns the eyes on your rod into a razor blade and just starts cutting your line. I mean, all the time when I'm helping people string up their rods for the year, that's one of the things I notice and I look for as I'm stringing it up. Every time I put the line through the eyes, I'm checking each eye to make sure that there aren't any nicks or grooves in it from the line, or that the ceramic insert is still there so that it's not cutting your line. And then also, same idea, but the tip of your rod, you see how right there, that one's bent and the ceramic's missing. That actually happens a lot on this river, and it comes from reeling your split shot up on your line when you're reeling your line back in. Reeling your split shot up into the tip of your rod, and after it's hitting it a bunch of times, it can pop the ceramic out or chip the ceramic, and it's going to start cutting your line. So that's something you really need to pay attention to. It's an easy thing to miss, and it's so important to make sure that your line stays intact when you're fishing. And then the third thing, if you're new to this river, this might not be something you've dealt with that much. So I want you to take a look at these hooks here. I mean, they both look like, normal hooks you would use, no problem. But if you actually look a little closer, this is how it's supposed to look. It's got a good curve to it. It's kind of bent in. The tip is almost facing, like it's pointed up at the eye of the hook. And then this one next to it, if you look, it's actually bent out a little more. And I know it's so subtle and it's hard to see the difference, but if you can see these sort of side by side, how this one's bent in properly and this one's bent out. If you haven't fished on this river a lot, it might not be something that you've seen before, but these fish are so big that when you hook one, it can actually straighten your hook out. And it's hard to notice sometimes when you're fishing. You think, it just popped the hook, but actually it bent it out enough to slip off. And if you don't notice it, you're going to be fishing with a hook that you can't even properly set the hook, and if you get another fish on, it's just going to pop right off. So anytime you have a fish and lose it, you really want to be going over, again, checking your line to make sure it's not frayed, and then right at the end, check your hook to make sure that it's not bent out so that you can keep hooking up into fish. So those are just 3 tricks that I've noticed and things people seem to overlook frequently that, you know, are reasons they lose fish, and there's silly reasons to lose fish. It's so easy to check. You just have to stay on top of your gear, and then you'll be able to land that big fish.